and there's no lonely ones. Very good. Okay, so here we go. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So we continue on from the first fact of the Eightfold Path, which is always the longest. So the wrong view, because if you get the view right, you've got the right map, then you don't get lost. What now is wrong view? This is from the very first sutta in the first collection, Brahmajala Sutta. It's the 62 wrong views, and this is wrong view number 8. There are some who state whatever is called sight, hearing, smell, taste, or touch, the 5 senses, that is impermanent, unstable, non-eternal, and liable to change. But what is called mentality, this is mano, or mind, citta, or consciousness, vijnana. That is the permanent essence, the soul. Sometimes we say soul, or self, but the soul has just too many implications that sometimes you've got no soul. Or, there used to be a type of music called soul music. You feel it. It sometimes doesn't, it's a Western word, especially from the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And it doesn't really get to the heart of it. It's like a permanent essence, something, a core which is always there, which is your essential essence. And that is the permanent essence, stable, eternal, not subject to change, the same forever and ever. That's a translation. Interestingly here, it just says mentality or mind or consciousness. Because in the time of the Buddha, just like now, people weren't lawyers, they weren't philosophers, they were ordinary people, and they used words like loosely. They weren't like specific. So that stuff you call mind or consciousness or the heart or whatever, we use words interchangeably, and this was obviously what is meaning that part of the human being, which many people call consciousness or mind or mentality. There's a wrong view to say it is permanent essence. What is right view? Straight away, the Four Noble Truths. Sometimes the Four Noble Truths we think is boring, and some idea of like a permanent essence is a bit more interesting. It is the understanding of the Four Noble Truths: suffering, the origin of suffering, cessation of suffering, the way of practice, leading to cessation of suffering. This is called right view. So you're not going to places where you don't understand something which is down to earth. You can understand it, and little by little, from that foundation, it leads to the deepest of understandings. Now, the good and the bad, sometimes we start off with right view, just not with metaphysics, but just with basic morality. What are the good and the bad? What is their cause? Intentional killing, stealing, maybe intentional killing. If you step on a worm by mistake, it's late at night, then it's not intentional. Stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, malicious gossip, harsh speech, useless talk, desire relating to the 5 senses, ill will and wrong view, these are the bad. This is wanting, aversion and delusion. These are the causes of the bad, because you want stuff, then you steal, or you have sexual misconduct, you're deluded, you can get some happiness there. And malicious gossip, that is when you try and sort of create divisions between people. did you hear what Ajahn Brahm said about BF, Buddhist Fellowship? And then they said, you hear what Ajahn Brahm said about Bodhinyana Singapore? Try to sort of separate people. That's malicious. So you don't use the words to create divisions. You know, you always use things to create harmony and peace between people. Harsh speech, useless talk, and useless talk, sometimes they call it gossip. But it's not just gossip, it's things which, you know, it's useless, has no point to it. And I did not just stay with Ajahn Chah, I went to visit many other great forest monks while I was a young monk in Thailand. I remember going to visit Ajahn Mahabua, and when it came to tea time, so we had the tea it was in the dyeing shed, and everybody would sit anywhere. And it would not be just Ajahn Bua in the high seat and everyone else in the low seat. He said, oh no, this is where we're monks together. We're like brothers, we're like a family. No hierarchies here. And then he'd tell jokes and funny stories. And that's what he did. There he told the story of this monk Ajahn Singtong, and who was a very, very funny monk. And he was late one day to the morning meeting. And if you were late one morning at Ajahn Mahabua's monastery, you get scolded. But he was more smart. So what he did, he knew he was late for the morning chanting. So in the forest, he found a forest chicken. He grabbed a chicken, got a rope, put the rope around the chicken's neck, didn't strangle it, but pulled the chicken to the hall where the morning meeting was. And of course everybody heard it, this monk dragging this poor little chicken to the morning meeting. And then when the meeting finished, you know, Ajahn Mahabua would say, you were late. He said, no, I wasn't late. I came before the chicken, which is a Thai idiom for saying you got up early. And poor Ajahn Mahabua immediately felt, oh, get out of here. Because all the monks were laughing at his sort of intelligence of this Ajahn Singtong. So he outwitted, you know, the strongest monk in Thailand, that Ajahn Singtong. But they would tell stories like that because there were sometimes the monks, you know, in the community, or just, you know, being here in a retreat, sometimes you can get very tense. And sometimes you can get a bit of bad feeling, a little bit of joke or a little bit of fellowship can break all of that. And then the idea of being scared of the teacher and not wanting to tell, you know, just your problems, that all disappears. And the teacher becomes this beautiful, like, grandfather figure that you're never afraid of, but you always know is there to help you. So it has a purpose to it. So refraining from these things, from intentionally killing living beings, stealing, sexual misconduct, from lying, malicious gossip, harsh speech, and from useless speech, instead of desire relating to the five senses, contentment. Loving kindness is coming next if it scrolls up. And right views are good. So it's wonderful to see contentment is like a moral factor of goodness, kindness is good, it's morality, and obviously the right view. So where that comes from is renunciation, compassion and wisdom are the roots of the good. You know, sometimes I think our Theravada doesn't do compassion much, but we do a huge amount of compassion. It's the core to all Buddhist traditions, actually to all religious traditions. And the renunciation part is also so important. We don't ask for things for ourselves, we give, let go. Please excuse me, even the person who just gave me a bar of chocolate a few minutes ago. I never kept it, I gave it to one of the other monks. And he probably has to receive it, because I gave it to him, and he probably will take it to Bodhinyana Monastery and give it to another monk, who will give it to somebody else. So that way, one bar of chocolate makes a huge amount of merit. That's how it works. So you just keep giving. And right view regarding the five components of existence. You view your body as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. Not me, not mine, not a permanent essence. So you're going to die one day. So, good old Venerable K3 Dhammananda in Brickfields. His doctor saying that when he was told he was going to die within a couple of months, he burst out laughing. That's great when, I'm going to die, oh my goodness. No, so if you really understand all these teachings, when the doctor says to you, oh, you've only got a month to die, whoopee! Because you're letting go. So, you guide your bodies in permanent suffering and non-self. Not me, not mine, not a business. Basically, none of you. None of your business. You regard experience as impermanent suffering and non-self. Totally out of control. And you regard perception as impermanent suffering and non-self. You regard will as impermanent, comes and goes, not under my control. That's the interesting one. When we get onto the will business, people actually have sleepless nights when they hear this. Because will. I remember his name now, Sun Han, the lawyer. I remember the first time I went over to Singapore. And he said, can you give a deep talk tonight instead of this 2 bad bricks in the wall and opening the door of your heart? He said, you want a deep talk? And I said, okay. I gave a deep talk on non-self and the will. And the following morning when he picked me up to go somewhere, he said, never do that again, Ajahn Brahm. I didn't sleep all night. Well, you asked for it. Anyway, you regard will as impermanent suffering. Suffering. To will is to suffer. You think that your will can actually protect you. If you have a strong enough will, and sometimes it's just not wise enough, my will. But if I have a strong will, then I can protect myself, escape from suffering, and get what I want. Donald Trump. Strong will to get there, but stupidity. Kim Jong-un as well. How does a person like that get to where he is and stay for so long? Incredibly strong will, but it's totally stupid. He thinks the will protect him. It just will destroy him. And you regard consciousnesses as impermanent suffering and non-self. That is the right view. That's a powerful one. Unprofitable questions. If anyone should say, I will not become a practicing Buddhist until I discover whether this universe is eternal or not, finite or infinite, whether my permanent essence and my body are the same, or my permanent essence is one thing but my body is another, whether the Buddha persists after death, does not persist after death, both persist and does not persist after death, or neither persists nor does not persist after death. And if you've ever been to India and had a philosophical discussion with somebody, you know where these things come from. That person would die before they found out. Now we come to the simile, which most people say being shot by an arrow. Now, shot by an arrow, people don't get shot by arrows these days. So I just change the same simile, give it the same meaning, but make it a bit more interesting. Suppose a person was shot with a gun. This is more likely these days. And medics would come to help them. Then the person would say, hang on a minute. Who pulled the trigger? What type of gun did they use? And why did they shoot me? Moreover, let me see your medical qualifications first. I will not let you treat me until you answer all these questions. That person would be considered to have wrong view. And might die before their questions were answered. So it's the same simile, but just make it a bit more interesting for modern day people. Therefore, the one who seeks their own welfare should attend to this injury first. The trauma of unhappiness, pain and suffering. And sometimes you change the translation, you keep the essence of it, and it gives it more punch. For one with the view, life, the universe is eternal, the holy life is without meaning. There's no end of suffering, whatever you do. For one with the view, life, the universe is not eternal, again the holy life is without meaning. Your existence is going to end anyway. Whether one has a view the universe is eternal, or the view the universe is not eternal, there is rebirth, there is aging, there is death, there are sorrow, crying, pain, unhappiness and distress. There's destruction of which are prescribed in this very life. And of course, the simile we always use for our modern world is that movie, what was it called? Groundhog Day. Yeah, and I did watch that one because I think somebody, Ron Battersby, told me about it, and I think it was coming back from Sri Lanka just after he told me, and it was on the in-flight movie, so I actually asked for the things to watch it. And it's a great movie until the end. The guy kept reincarnated the same morning. And first of all, he thought, great, I can really make use of this, get my will and get it all planned so I can have a wonderful time. Until he got so bored of that, he kept trying to kill himself. Just jumping over a cliff, putting himself under a train, and as soon as he got run over by the train, he woke up and it was the morning, same morning again. That's what happens with reincarnation. If you could remember all your lives, you'd be bored sick of this. Here we go again. Whew. And anyway, so it was eternal, no escape. But of course, his escape, I hoped he would actually meditate or something, listen to the Dhamma, but no, he fell in love. That was a real stupid thing. But anyway, can you go down a bit further? No, okay, yeah, up a bit, sorry. So this is, if you have an eternal being, then there is no holy life. Because, eternity actually is a lot of suffering. How much can you do? Eternal life. That was like the suffering of the Groundhog Day. And there was another movie I watched as a kid. It was a university. It was Dracula, but it was a very wonderful Dracula because not sort of scaring people. This poor Dracula could live forever, except if he allowed himself to get lured out and into the sunlight. And in the end, he had this dilemma. He was afraid of dying, but he couldn't stand living anymore. He'd done everything. Lived such a long time, many hundreds of years. Nothing more to do. And so it was the pain of eternity, the realization of the suffering of eternity. He willingly went out of the cave to suicide. Because eternity is actually a huge amount of suffering. People think it's being saved, it's happiness. If you actually contemplate it, after a while there's nothing there for you. Been there, done that, everything. Anyway, the 5 basic fetters. Here one who has not seen the Dhamma abides with a mind addicted and attached to view of a permanent essence. They do not even seek an escape from the long-standing wrong view of a permanent essence. When that wrong view of a permanent essence has become habitual, it is regarded as a basic fetter. And these are called the lower fetters. But I call it like a basic fetter. It's not like a lower fetter and higher fetters, because all fetters are pretty low. They actually bind you to samsara. But this was an interesting, that there is a tendency always for someone to try and make some permanent essence somewhere. It's like an ultimate retirement home for you, where you can live happily ever after in some heaven realm or some cosmic consciousness, merge with eternity or whatever. You're still there, you haven't disappeared. But you can retire happy ever after. It is, the Disney delusion. They rode off into the sunset and lived happily ever after. In some sort of heaven realm, in some eternal place of you can live happily ever after exist. And that is such a strong addiction to human beings that when they do see emptiness and nothingness, they make it into something. I was just telling earlier, just the interviews. The 2 examples of that was a story of the Buddha's cousin, Anuruddha, who was one of the great disciples of the Buddha. I did mention earlier, it took him 17 years after ordination before he became a stream winner. But when he was a young boy, he was playing marbles with his friends and betting on the outcome. And all he had to bet was his lunch, which was like some cakes. And he kept on losing. And every time he lost, he sent his servant, because of a wealthy family, to go back to his mum and ask for some more cakes. And so he would go with the basket and bring the basket back with some more cakes, but he kept on losing them. And then once the servant went back home, and your son needs some more cakes, and said, there aren't any cakes, they're all gone. And the word in Pali for there aren't any is nati. Nati. So, nati cakes. So the servant just brought the basket back and sort of told Anuruddha, nati cakes. Now, according to his past karma, Anuruddha had done some great act of charity, that the result of which, in his last life when he was the monk, that he could never not get what he wanted. He had to get what he wanted. So the devas, the heavenly beings who somehow have to, make sure that karma works, according to the story, but they said, we can't give an empty basket to Anuruddha, so they inserted secretly into the basket some heavenly cakes, like deva food. And so when the servant gave Anuruddha nati cakes, and when he opened it up, wow, he's never tasted anything as delicious as these nati cakes ever before. And he really scolded his mum. Mum, you don't love me. You've been keeping these natty cake secrets for such a long time. The natty cakes became something. They made something out of nothing. And the other simile was in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Or Alice with the Looking Glass, I think. Where Alice finally reaches the square of the Red Queen. And when it reaches that square, the Queen said, I'm waiting for my messenger. Hasn't arrived yet. Did you see anybody on the road coming here? And she said, I saw nobody on the road. You saw nobody? It's hard enough with my eyes to see somebody, and you can see nobody. And then the messenger came. And then the Queen said, did you see anybody on the road? And the messenger said, I saw nobody on the road. Exactly, she saw it too. But why are you so late? Well, I tried my hardest, Your Majesty, that nobody runs faster than me. Exactly. That's why nobody arrived before you. Nobody runs faster. And so it was a beautiful little play on words and just making nobody into somebody. And this is the illusion there. We have such a long standing view that there's something there. So when it's actually nothing, we make literally nothingness, emptiness, something. That's when, you have even the Mahayana, the emptiness of emptiness. So emptiness is not a thing. And so people actually use the language and they try and make it something. Anyway, when that wrong view of permanent essence has become habitual, it is regarded as a basic fetter. You can't let go because I'm here and I don't want to let go. One who abides with a mind addicted and attached to skeptical doubt, to a belief that rites and rituals are sufficient in themselves to reach awakening, to the desire for the five senses, to aversion, they do not even seek an escape from these set states. When those states have become habitual, they are regarded as the five basic fetters. Unwise contemplations. One who has not seen the Dhamma does not understand what things are fit for contemplation and what things are not. Thus they contemplate on those things unfit and not on those things fit for attention. This is how you contemplate unwisely. Did my soul exist in the past? Did my soul not exist in the past? What was my soul in the past? How was my soul in the past? Having been what did my soul become in the past? Shall my soul be in the future? Shall my soul not be in the future? What shall my soul be in the future? How shall my soul be in the future? Having been what shall my soul become in the future? Or else you are inwardly perplexed about the present. Is this my soul? This is not my soul. What is this soul? How is this soul? Where has this soul come from? Where will it go? Now, the reason why that's unwise, you can scroll up a bit, unwise attention is because it always assumes a soul is there somewhere. You're just trying to find the nature of something which does not exist. So, you say, these days we might say, who am I? That assumes you are something. You're just trying to find who it is. That is why it's much better to actually to change your inquiry into what do I take myself to be? Not there is something there, but what do I perceive this to be? And that is a wise attention which actually doesn't assume what you're just trying to find out whether it exists or not. So the 6 views about the soul, here we go. When you attend unwisely in this way, one of 6 views arises in you. The view, I possess a soul, arises in you as true and established. Or the view, I possess no soul, only a material body, whose conscious life is a mere byproduct of a brain, arises in you and true and established. That is the materialist view of not everybody in modern science, but a lot of people. In other words, only a material body, when you die, that's it. Or the view, I know the soul with the soul. I know, therefore I am, arises in you as true and established. Or the view, I perceive there is no soul with the soul, arises in you. The soul is, but cannot be known. Or the view, I perceive a soul with that which is without a soul, arises in you, as true and established. 5 khandhas that connote an original mind existing outside of the 5 khandhas. Or else that's the first 5 of the wrong views, but most people just have the 6th one, which is not so philosophical. Or else you have some view as this, it is this soul of mine that speaks and feels and experiences here and there the results of good and bad actions. But this soul of mine is permanent, everlasting, eternal, not subject to change, and will endure as long as eternity. So this is the most common thing, that there's some essence in you, some me, some soul inside of you, and it just experiences sometimes good stuff, sometimes bad stuff. But the stuff you experience changes, but the thing which experiences it does not. That's the 6th wrong view, according to the Buddha.
I don't understand the 5th view.
The 5th view. I perceive a soul with what is without a soul. So the Buddha said consistently, the 5 khandhas, the 5 components of existence, the body, vedana, calling it experience, perception, will, and consciousness is the people say, that's you can see they come and go. But from with those, you can see what is the real permanent essence. So the 5 khandhas, your body and mind, all the processes by which you're listening to me now, that is not a soul, a permanent essence, but it can know something existing outside of the 5 khandhas, which is the soul. I perceive a soul, an essence, with what is without a soul, the 5 khandhas. The 2 extremes are, now, this is a very powerful part of the Buddha's teachings, and I point this out because in the historic development of Buddhism, this was, it was Nagarjuna, wasn't it? Who saw that Buddhism was really veering off the path, Mahayana and the Hinayana at that time, it was Hinayana, they were just missing the point about Sarvastivadins, everything exists, or nihilists. And actually there was a question, I don't think I answered it, about is this no soul, is it nihilism? There's nothing? And it's not. It's something in between. And Nagarjuna picked out this one, this particular sutta, and from that we had the Madhyamaka school of Buddhism, which became very popular. Venerable Sir, the 2 extremes and the middle doctrine. It is said, right view, right view. In what way is there right view? This world, Kachana, mostly depends on a duality, on a theory of existence and a theory of non-existence, of like a permanent essence somewhere, or there's nothing at all, it's just nihilism. But for one who sees the origin of phenomena, how things arise, come into existence as it really is, there can be no idea of non-existence in the world. And for one who sees the cessation of phenomena as it really is, there is no idea of existence in this world. There's a coming into existence. So you can't say there's nothing, but it doesn't last. You can't say there's anything existing. So the idea of existence and non-existence, those are two extremes. And there's a third way. Anyway, most people, which will come in a moment, most people are attached to one of these wrong views of existence and non-existence. But one with right view disengages from such dualistic theories about my soul. You have no perplexity or doubt that what arises is only suffering arising, and what ceases is only suffering ceasing. You already heard that from the Bhikkhuni Vajira. Your knowledge about this is independent of mere belief and acceptance. In this way there is right view, direct understanding. Phenomena exist is one extreme. Phenomena do not exist is the second extreme. Without veering to either of these extremes, the Buddha teaches the Dhamma by the middle. Dependent origination and cessation. A process which dependent origination and cessation gives the physics, gives the technical details of how that process works. From delusion as a cause, volition arises, and the rest of the factors are dependent origination. It's a process, avoiding the extreme of something permanent or nothing at all. If there was a soul, a permanent essence, would there be what belongs to a soul? Now this is a little philosophy. You know something by what it does, its function, what it owns. So, you know, you're an engineer, you're a monk, you're a woman. This is just by what you do, what you own, your attributes. So if there is a soul, there has to be something which belongs, some attributes to a soul, something to describe it. Yes, Venerable Sir. Or if there were what belongs to a soul, would there be a soul? Yes, Venerable Sir. Since any soul or any attributes of a soul are not apprehended as true and established, then the basic belief, namely, this is a soul, this is a world, after death I shall be permanent, everlasting, eternal, not subject to change, I shall endure as long as eternity, would it not be an utterly and completely foolish belief? Now what that's actually saying, if there is a soul, almost by definition it has to have the attribute of permanence. That's what the real soul means. An essence unbreakable. It also has an attribute of happiness, peaceful. Because the idea, if you find your ultimate being, your existence, and it's a bunch of suffering, well, that is really just unacceptable. So the idea that has some attributes, this idea of a soul, and it has to feel things, has to know it exists. Otherwise, it doesn't exist at all, if it doesn't know it exists. So some soul, a permanent essence, has to have some attributes to it. And sometimes when you can't find any attributes, you know the thing doesn't exist. For example, any doctors here, somebody is dead. How do you know someone is dead? The attributes of life have to be missing. And if those are missing, then we know they're dead. Anyway, such speculative beliefs, speculative what we would like to believe, are called a thicket of views. These are some of the metaphors. If you ever gone bushwalking, you come to a big thicket, it's just go round it because it's so terrible trying to get through it. I remember even when Ajahn first came to visit many, many years ago. He said the Australian bush is very prickly because you don't make paths in there. Everything has got sharp edges to it. Anyway, the wilderness of views, nothing really important there. The contortion of views, which is another great symbol. You have to twist this way to justify your view, and twist that way, and contorted. The procrastination of views. Well, it might be right, but I'll figure it out later. The fetter of views, because it stops you, it drags you down. Shackled by the fetter of views, the unenlightened person is not freed from birth, aging, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, unhappiness, and distress. They're not freed from suffering, I say. The unenlightened worldling might experience revulsion from this body, let its importance fade away and be liberated from it. Why? Because growth and decay are seen in this body. Moreover, it is born and dies. You all see that. So you can't really rely on this body. But that which is called mind, or mentality, or consciousness again, the word or is important. That one thing which people give these different names to, the unenlightened worldling is unable to experience revulsion from it. No, to actually want to throw it away, wanting to get rid of it, wanting to let it cease. In other words, we're attached to it. Why? Because for a long time you've held, appropriated, and grasped the wrong view. This citta, or mind, or consciousness, whatever you call it, is mine. This I am. This is my permanent essence. Suppose a fire was burning in front of you. Would you know that a fire was burning in front of you? If someone asked you what this fire burning depends on, how would you answer? You would answer that the fire was burning in dependence on the fuel of grass and sticks. If the fire was extinguished, nibbutto, that's the past participle of nibbana, basically we say the fire was nibbaned, would you know that the fire was nibbaned? Of course. Actually, I think there's missed a few words out there. Yes, yes, yes. If someone then asked you where that fire went when it was extinguished, did it go to the east, west, north or south, how would you answer? If it was a very good fire, would it go to the heaven realm of fires, where it keeps all the heavenly beings warm and keeps your porridge warm in the morning? Or if it's been a bad fire, would it go to the hell realm and join all the other bad flames there? If a fire is extinguished, where would it go? How do you answer? The question makes no sense. That fire burnt in dependence on its fuel, upadana. It's burnt in dependence on its fuel of grass and sticks. When that was used up, not getting any more fuel, it became extinguished. It nibbaned. It didn't go anywhere. So, 2, where does the enlightened one go after death? The question makes no sense. Scroll, please. It doesn't go anywhere. No more than the fire goes anywhere. Am I confusing you? Scaring you? Cool, yeah, very good. Views and discussions about the soul. Now, one who says, experience, that's my permanent essence, that's me, should be told there are 3 kinds of experience, pleasant, painful, and neutral. Which of these 3 do you consider to be your permanent essence, the real you? Because when a pleasant experience is felt, no painful or neutral experience is felt. When a painful experience is felt, the other 2 are not felt. When a neutral experience is felt, no pleasant or painful experience is felt. Pleasant experience is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen, bound to decay, to vanish, to fade away, to cease. And so to our painful experiences and neutral experiences. Have you ever noticed that sometimes you ask yourself, what was the most pleasant experience in my life? Sometimes it's when pain is finished. This was an experience, I was waiting for a monk at the old Perth airport a long time ago. And on the same flight there were some refugees, actually there were Baha'is from the Iranian Revolution many years ago. And when they started coming out, these are people, they've been persecuted, ran away, for their lives from persecution, and they were living in refugee camps, scraping around for anything. They couldn't take anything with them when they fled for their lives. And now they were granted asylum in Australia. Freedom, no more fear. And when they came out, from the baggage and immigration, the customs, they were punching the air. Yay, we made it, we're free. And I was watching the refugee after refugee come out, and then I punched the air, yeah. And I thought, hang on, I'm not a refugee. It was like the mudita, it just was infectious. But then I thought, why are they so happy? It was because of all the pain they'd been through, all the suffering they'd endured for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. Other people who hadn't suffered so much, when they came out from the airport, they weren't so happy. Their happiness was a direct result of how much suffering they'd been through. It was conditioned by an ending of suffering. And what is suffering? Conditioned by how much happiness you had, and now it's going. Happiness of 3 wonderful months in Jhana growth. Any suffering you get tomorrow or the next day is directly dependent on how much happiness you had here. You can't have one without the other. You can't, and even in Christianity, I think it was St. Augustine, he noticed, he was a smart cat, was Augustine. Was it cool cat or smart Alec or something? But anyways, I really respect him because he understood that, and he said, in heaven, one day every year out of 365 you have to go to hell. Otherwise you wouldn't appreciate heaven anymore. And that was a great Christian theologian, St. Augustine. Because if it was heaven all the time, you wouldn't appreciate it. So that's what happiness and pain is. They dance around each other. You can't have one without the other. That's why experience is suffering. You can't have one without the other. Those who think experience is my permanent essence is contemplating something in this present life that is impermanent, a mixture of happiness and unhappiness, subject to arising and passing away. It's not fitting to maintain experience is my permanent essence. Okay, scroll please. But anyone who says experience is not my permanent essence, okay, I'll agree to that. My permanent essence is, only it doesn't experience anything. Then they should be asked, if your permanent essence had no experience at all, could its existence be known to itself? And basically, it just can't be known. No, therefore it's not reasonable to maintain experience is not my permanent essence. My permanent essence is, but has no experience. In the commentaries they say it's just like a log of wood. Is that your essential soul? Is that what you want to experience at the end of your great journey through samsara? Now I'm enlightened. Now I'm just a log of wood. And anyone who says, experience is not my permanent essence, my permanent essence is, and doesn't experience anything, only my permanent essence performs the act of experience when it wants to, but doesn't have to. That's its nature. Should be asked, well, if all experience absolutely and totally ceased, could its existence be known to itself? To which one again would say no. All experience absolutely and totally ceased. Not forever, but just even for a while. Of course not. It's not tenable to maintain experience is not my soul. My soul is, but does not experience anything. My soul performs the act of experience, for that is its nature. From the time when a meditator no longer regards experience as a permanent essence, or that the permanent essence is, only does not experience anything, or the permanent essence is and does not experience anything, only the permanent essence performs the act of experience, that is its nature. You can understand why the Buddha called that the contortion of views. When you have such a view, you cling to nothing in the world. You cling to nothing in the world. Experience is just experience. It's not me, not mine, not a self. Nothing to do with me, not controllable. Not clinging, you're not agitated by anything. Leaving, being, dying, getting jhanas, not getting jhanas. You're not agitated by anything in this world. not being agitated, you gain personal liberation. You know, rebirth is finished. Whole life has been fulfilled. Done what had to be done. There's nothing more here. Scroll, please. Yeah, go on.
These two sentences are the same. That the permanent essence
is
only does not experience anything.
Yeah.
The permanent essence is
And does not experience anything. Only the permanent essence performs. It adds only the permanent essence performs the act of experience. Yeah, it is, and doesn't. Permanent essence it doesn't experience anything, but it's behind experience. It sort of controls it. Like that computer is, but the computer can't do anything. But the permanent essence is what keeps clicking the mouse. It makes the computer experience things, but the computer can't experience. So it's just moving goalposts, but still it's untenable. If anybody says the mind is a permanent essence, not an experience, but the mind, that is not reasonable. The appearance and disappearance of the mind are discerned. And since its appearance and disappearance are discerned, your mind comes, your mind goes. It's not always there. Sometimes you're under anesthetic, knocked out, don't feel anything. You're no near-death experience. Because it comes and goes, it would follow my permanent essence, appears and then disappears. So where does it go when you're under anesthesia? That is why it's not acceptable for anyone to say the mind is a permanent essence. If anyone says, okay, we've got experience, mind objects are the permanent essence. Mind consciousness is a permanent essence. Experience, we've already done that one. Wanting is a permanent essence. To be is to do. Wanting. You know that story? Because there we go again. Because sometimes we get too serious, so I have to add a little bit of interest. On the philosophy department, they used to have really good graffiti when I was a student. Very, very smart, wise graffiti. And the graffiti in particular on the philosophy department of Cambridge University, what was the camp? Oh, just over the river on the other side of the backs, philosophy department. There was written to do is to be. And that was René Descartes. Underneath, to be is to do. Turn the words the other way around. That was Jean-Paul Sartre, existential philosophy. To do is to be, Descartes. To be is to do, Jean-Paul Sartre. And the third line was the great American philosopher, do, be, Frank Sinatra. I saw that with my own eyes. It was great. But what it meant was all three of them, well, maybe the first two, saw that doing and being always go together. If you stop doing stuff, your being vanishes. And just to put it in here, that's why it's so hard for you to let go. Because what you're really letting go of is not doing things. You're letting go of this thing inside of you which you think is in control. That's why it's scary. You are letting go of you. You are eating your own head. It actually works, so when you don't do anything, you vanish. Anyway, this mind objects, experience, wanting, these things come and go, which is why it's not reasonable for anyone to say mind objects, mind consciousness, experience or wanting is a permanent essence. And when I put permanent in there, essence, because that's what a soul, an essential me, it has to be permanent. Otherwise, that attribute, if that's not there, it's not really the real me. Thus, the mind is not the permanent essence. Mind objects, mind consciousness, mind objects, experience and wanting, all these are not a permanent essence. Scroll, please. That's why it would be better for the uninstructed worldling to take as the soul, the body, rather than the mind. Why? Because this body lasts for up to 100 years or even longer, But that thing which is called mind or mentality or consciousness arises as one thing and ceases as another all the time. So wise contemplations, those unwise contemplations, an enlightened being, or one on the path to enlightenment, understands what things are fit for attention, what things are unfit for attention. They do not contemplate, waste time on things unfit for attention, only those things fit for attention. You contemplate, this is suffering, this is the origin of suffering, cessation of suffering. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. And when you contemplate in this way, three fetters are abandoned in you: a view of a permanent essence, skeptical doubt, and belief that rites and rituals are sufficient in themselves to reach enlightenment. But the main one is permanent essence. No one in here. Oh, what joy. It's none of my business. So trying to get jhanas, trying to get enlightened, none of my business. Who's getting enlightened anyway? So you stop trying. And as soon as you stop trying, then you get enlightened. When you start trying, then you never get enlightened. When you're contemplating, oh, I did that one. Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, yeah. Those who have abandoned three fetters are all stream enterers, no longer subject to rebirth in the lower realm and headed for full enlightenment. Pause there. Why is it you can't be reborn in the lower realm if you're a stream winner? When you've let go of the sense of self. Because you don't need to punish yourself anymore. I'm a bad monk. I made a mistake. I told a stupid joke. I used a shit word. I did it again. You can see that we have this idea of punishing because we have this idea of a permanent self. And with that permanent self, a soul, we've got something to improve or something to feel guilty about. It's very powerful that once you see through that, forgiveness is automatic. You acknowledge, forgive, and let go. Acknowledge you made a mistake. Everyone does. So on a t-shirt, great little saying, but I can't claim this because somebody else got there first. On the t-shirt, read, nobody is perfect. You've heard that before? Mm-hmm. Nobody's perfect. The second line was, I am a nobody. Third line, therefore I am perfect. It's a joke, but there's actually a lot there. If you're a somebody, you have to be perfect. But if you're a nobody, you be whatever you like. I'm a nobody, nobody's perfect. If I'm perfect, finish. So that's why someone who's a stream winner, they don't need to punish themselves. They don't need to get reborn in the hell realms. As I said, the gates of the hell realms are permanently open. You can walk out whenever you want, when you think you don't need to be punished anymore. Guilt is a sign of self. Anyway, absolute rule over the earth, going to heaven, supreme sovereignty over all worlds, the fruit of stream meaning surpasses them all. Noble ones and the 10 fetters. Actually, this is an old version because I took this out on the latest. Never mind. On entering the irreversible path to attainment of Nibbana, one becomes a noble person. The word noble, Arya, here denotes spiritual nobility. And it's because they use the word Arya that's one of the reasons why if you're a monk or a nun, you don't tell people whether you got enlightened or not. Because that's actually one of the offences in the Vinaya, to tell someone you're enlightened, or that you're a stream winner or whatever, because in the Sangha, if you had like the monks or the nuns who were stream winners, once returners, non-returners, or arahats, the noble ones, and the riffraff who weren't, it creates what we call the aristocracy. With all the hierarchies which that creates. It separates like a class system in the Sangha. These are the Aryas and these are the hopeless losers. And unfortunately you see that these days. So don't give any donations or any food or stuff to that monk. You know, he's only an ordinary monk. But that nun, she's enlightened. You get more bang for your bucks that way. Those are actually bad monks who let that on. We're almost bound to hide any attainments. To not know. And even in the time of the Buddha, some people were enlightened and nobody knew about it. Kept it secret. To create the harmony and peace, not the two-tier, the aristocracy and the riffraff. So, on entering the area, here denoting spiritual nobility, there are 4 major types of noble persons. Each stage is divided into 2 phases, the path and its fruition. In the path phase, one is said to be practicing for the attainment of a particular fruition, which one is bound to realize within that same life. In the resultant phase, one is said to be established in that fruition. Thus, the 4 major types of noble persons actually comprise 4 pairs or 8 types of noble individuals. One practicing for the realization of the fruit of stream winner and the stream enterer. You've become a stream winner. First you're on the way, then you've reached. One practicing for the realization of the fruit of once returning and the once returner. One practicing for the realization of the fruit of non-returning and the non-returner. One practicing for arahatship and the arahat. The first 7 persons are collectively known as sakas, trainees or disciples in the higher training, and the arahat is called one beyond training. The 4 main stages themselves are defined in 2 ways: by the way the defilements eradicated by the path, what you've got rid of, and the second by way of the destiny after death that awaits one who's realized that particular fruit. So all by what you've let go of, not what you've attained. So the sutras group the defilements abandoned into a set of 10 fetters. The stream enterer abandons the first 3 fetters, the view of a soul, that is, the view of a truly existent permanent essence, either as identical with the 5 components of existence or as existing in some relation to them. All of those are abandoned by the stream enterer. Doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha and the training, and 3, the wrong grasp of rules and observances, the belief that mere external observances, particular religious rituals and ascetic practices, can lead to liberation. The stream enterer, that's what's given up, and now this is the destination. The stream enterer is assured of attaining full enlightenment in at most 6 more existences. Oh, is that a typo, isn't it? 7 existences.
At most 6 more, including this.
Okay, you've heard me before. That's not a typo, because people say 7 more existences. But it's actually 6, because this one counts as 1. You know the Chinese tradition, Asian tradition, when you're born, you're 1. And so, this life is 1, sort of the next life is number 2. So 7 existences, including this one as number 1. Does that mean that in Singapore that you can drive a car 1 year earlier than in Australia?
No.
So, stream enterer, 6 more lives, was that gone? And, okay. And most 6 more existences, which will all take place either in the human realm or the heaven realms. The stream enterer will never undergo an 8th existence. The present existence is counted as the first, and is forever freed from rebirth in the 3 lower realms. The hells, the realm of afflicted spirits, ghosts, and the animal realm. Though once returner does not eradicate any new fetters, he or she has eliminated the 3 fetters that the stream enterer has destroyed, and additionally weakens the 3 unwholesome roots, wanting, aversion, and delusion. Just weakened it. So it's a very hard thing actually to define this once returner. How much are they weakened? So that they do not arise often, and when they do arise, do not become obsessive. As the name implies, a once returner will come back to this world only 1 more time, and then make an end to suffering. So how many more existences, including this one, has a once returner got? 2 or 3? Which one do you say is correct? Including this one. 2 or 3? The ladies have it. 3. This one is 1, and you go up to usually to a heaven realm, and then you only come back to this realm once. So 3. Anyway, I'm just messing around with your accounting skills. The non-return eradicates 5 basic fetters. That is, in addition to the 3 fetters eliminated by the stream enterer, the non-return eradicates 2 additional fetters: desire for the 5 senses and aversion. They got no desire for this body and these senses. Because non-returners have eradicated desire for the 5 sense world, they have no ties binding them to this world. Thus they take birth in the pure abodes, Sudawasa, only for non-returners. They attain final nibbana there without ever returning to rebirth in the world of the 5 senses. The non-returner, however, is still bound by the 5 higher fetters. Attachment to jhanas. Ajahn Brahm has been a hypocrite. I've been telling you can't be attached to jhanas. You can, but it just stops you from becoming a full arahat. You're just a non-returner. But I think many of you will be satisfied at the end of this retreat by being a non-returner. So yeah, it is an attachment. It's just a small thing compared to the others. Or attachment to the immaterial attainments, and conceit, the thought or perception, I am, sometimes arises. I am better, I am worse, I am the same. It's a thought. The view is eradicated, but sometimes you still have the thought. Understand why comes in a minute. Restlessness and some deluded thoughts, such as I am, and perceptions. Those who have cut off the 5 higher fetters have no more ties binding them to existence. These are arahats who have destroyed all defilements and are completely, something or other, liberated through final knowledge.
And then attachment to jhana, I thought some translations are attachment to the material world.
And the material, oh no, these are called, that's a bad translation. It's calling rupa jhana. Those are the 4 jhanas. Idioms again. But sometimes, you have a word and, you don't understand its context. Sometimes you just have the word like together. If you analyze that, it means to get her. To get her. Yeah. So you can very that being together is actually just to get rid of somebody, especially female. I'm going to get her. So you've got to be careful. A word only exists in its context. Words before its place in the sentence. That's how you understand its meaning. And it's always attachment to the jhanas, immaterial attainments. Okay. Oh, the jhananagami. Just as, we're going over a little bit, hope you don't mind. Just as when the sky is clear and cloudless, the sun ascending in the sky dispels all darkness as it shines and radiates, so too when the dust-free, stainless Dhamma eye arises in you. And like the Dhamma eye, it doesn't mean a physical eye, it's just a metaphor. You can see the Dhamma. Then together with the arising of vision, you abandon 3 fetters, the view of a permanent essence, doubt and wrong grasp of behavior and observances. So this is a stream winner. Afterwards, when you restrain 2 states, this is not abandoning them, you just restrain them temporarily, wanting and aversion, then totally secluded from the 5 senses, secluded from the 5 hindrances, you enter and dwell for a while in the first jhana, which consists of rapture and pleasure born of freedom from the 5 senses, accompanied by movements of the mind onto the bliss and holding the bliss. If you pass away while in jhana, there's no fetter bound by which you might ever return to this world. Just point there, wanting and aversion. Well, I want the jhana, I want something. Or I don't like this state, I want to get somewhere else. You restrain those 2. Those are the first 2 hindrances, first 2 nivarana, the first 2, what's it called? Hindrances, yeah.
So this is describing the sakadagami, but if he passes
No,
away...
this is describing the stream winner. So a stream winner who does jhanas and passes away in a jhana, they become they get instant promotion to being a non-returner. If you understand what jhana is, and what there's no sense of self anymore, no reason to come back. This phrase normally denotes the attainment of non-returning. The commentary, however, identifies a disciple as a jhana non-returner. That is, a stream enterer, or sometimes could be a once-returner, who also attains jhana. Though such a practitioner has not yet eliminated the two fetters of sensual desire and aversion by attaining jhana, he or she is bound to be reborn in the jhana realm and attain nibbana there, without ever taking another birth in the sense sphere. There is a shortcut. But you have to be a stream winner and jhana. Either die in jhana or do jhana regularly. Now the last thing, we're going to finish off with the scent of I am, because this answers the question, why is it that, you know there's no self, but you can still have a thought, I am. Friend Kamaka, when you speak of this I am, what is it that you speak of as I am? Because Kamaka was a non-returner. Friends, I do not speak of form as I am, nor do I speak of I am apart from form. That's the first kanda. I do not speak of experience as I am, nor of perception as I am, nor of will as I am, nor of consciousness as I am, nor do I speak of I am apart from consciousnesses. Friends, although the thought I am has not yet vanished in me in relation to these five components of existence, still I do not regard anything among them as this I am. Explain. Suppose there is a scent of a lotus. Would you be speaking rightly if you were to say the scent belongs to the petals, or the scent belongs to the stalk, or the scent belongs to the pistils? No. And how, friend, would you answer if you were to answer rightly? You would answer the scent belongs to the flower. Now that was a simile which not so clear, but the clear one comes next. So too, friends, I do not speak of form as I am, nor do I speak of I am apart from form. I do not speak of experience, of perception, of will, of consciousness as I am, nor do I speak of I am apart from consciousnesses. Friends, although the thought I am has not yet vanished in me in relation to these five components of existence, still I do not regard anything among them as this I am. Friends, even though a noble disciple has abandoned the five basic fetters, still in relation to the five components of existence, there still lingers in them a residual thought, I am, a desire, I am, an underlying tendency, I am, that has not yet been uprooted. Some time later, they dwell contemplating the dependency on causes of the five components of existence. Such is form, where body and stuff comes from, its origin. When those causes disappear, such is passing away. What is experience? It's causal. When those causes go, experience go. Perception, will is caused. When those causes disappear, so does the will disappear. Consciousnesses are caused. They're conditioned. They arise because of something else. When that something else disappears, the consciousness vanishes. Such is their origin, such in the passing away. As they dwell contemplating dependency on causes of the five components of existence, the residual thought I am, the desire I am, the underlying tendency I am, that had not yet been uprooted, this comes to be uprooted. Now the simile. Oh, suppose you washed a cloth in a washing machine. Now, the original simile, if you read it, suppose somebody washed a dirty cloth in cow dung and lye, whatever lye is, with some sort of astringent chemical. And when I first read that, instead of actually understanding the simile, I thought, who the heck would wash their clothes in cow poo? So it never really made sense to me, but it also distracted me from the meaning of the metaphor. So you just change it a little bit. Still keep the essence. Make it meaningful. Suppose you washed a cloth in a washing machine, rinsed it and spun it and then put it in a dryer. Although that cloth would be clean, still it might retain the residual smell of the soap powder, the I am. Then you would hang it out in the sun to air, and after a while the residual smell of the soap powder would vanish. You can all relate to that. You've all been washing your stuff in the laundry, I hope. So too, friends, even though a noble disciple has abandoned the 5 lower fetters, still in relation to the 5 components of existence, there lingers in them a residual thought, I am, a desire, I am, an underlying tendency, I am, that has not yet been uprooted. As you dwell contemplating dependency on causes, on the 5 components of existence, that's hanging out in the sun, in the beautiful Dhamma. The residual thought, I am, the desire, I am, the underlying tendency, I am, that had not yet been uprooted, that comes to be uprooted. And I didn't put it in here, but in that little sutta, it's historical, Kamika, when he was saying that, he uprooted the tendency and became an arahat. And we always say that sometimes monks or nuns think, oh, I'm teaching. How can I ever get anywhere when I'm teaching? Sometimes when you teach others, there's a letting go. And sometimes you come up with words, with explanations which inspire you as much as anybody else. Teaching sometimes is a cause of people's enlightenment. So don't be afraid of teaching. Now, I've gone 12 minutes over, and free from more speculative views, we can do that tomorrow. So that actually was one of the deepest parts of this word of the Buddha. So it gives you something to contemplate. And if you don't really understand it, want to look at it again, you can always get a copy from here somewhere or other. We're supposed to be publishing it one day, but even though you've got your own little copy, please purchase the book if ever it gets published. I always change it a little bit. So anyway, it's quite okay for people to ask for a copy, but please don't harass poor Eileen so that she can actually have some meditation as well. Put it online later on. Okay? Very good. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. See you later.